Admiral Yun Tai Min stood in the command center of Guardian Station, watching the tactical displays show alien positions throughout the solar system. The moment had come to reveal humanity's true strength. He opened a communication channel to all human military forces. This is Admiral Yun to all units. Operation Silent Thunder is now active. Show them what happens when you try to silence humanity. Across the solar system, things that looked like ordinary asteroids suddenly came alive. Hidden doors opened in their rocky surfaces, revealing the massive railgun batteries that Foreman Jiang Qi and his crews had been building for months. The disguise was perfect. The aliens had no idea that humanity had turned the asteroid belt into a weapons platform. Weapons. Specialist Lim Jae-sung coordinated the first strike from his control bunker buried deep in one of the larger asteroids. His fingers moved across the targeting controls as he selected the closest Corvani battleship. The railgun charged with a low humming sound that vibrated through the asteroid's metal core. Firing, Lim announced calmly. The tungsten rod shot out at 12% of the speed of light. It crossed the millions of kilometers between the asteroid and its target in just seconds. The Corvani battleship, designed to withstand energy weapons and missile attacks, had no defense against a solid projectile moving at such incredible speed. The rod punched through the alien ship's armor like it was paper. The kinetic energy released when it stopped turned the entire vessel into an expanding cloud of superheated metal and gas. One moment there was a kilometer-long warship, the next there was only glowing debris. The alien fleet commanders reacted with shock and confusion. Their sensors had detected the muzzle flash from the railgun, but they could not understand what kind of weapon could destroy their most powerful ship so easily. Captain Lee Dong-hyun watched the first kill from the bridge of the Soul's Pride, hidden behind Jupiter's largest moon. His ship and her sister vessels had been waiting for this moment. The Busan's Defiance, Gwangju's Resolve, and Daegu's Wrath moved out from their hiding places like predators emerging from tall grass. All ships weapons free, Lee ordered. Target the Corvani command vessel. The human warships had been built using technology that the aliens thought was primitive. Chemical rockets for propulsion, metal projectiles for weapons, nuclear power for energy. What the aliens did not understand was how advanced humanity had made these simple technologies. The Soul's Pride's railgun fired, followed a second later by the guns of her sister ships. 4 tungsten rods crossed space at nearly the same speed, all aimed at the same target. The massive Corvani hive ship, brain center of their entire fleet, disappeared in a flash of released energy. Suddenly, the insect-like ships began moving erratically. Without their central command, the hive mind was broken. Individual ships tried to coordinate attacks, but they kept interfering with each other. Commander Shin Ye-jin led the first wave of humanity's new fighter craft from the hidden base on Europa. The small ships looked nothing like the bulky vessels the aliens expected from humans. They were sleek and fast, using controlled antimatter reactions for both propulsion and weapons. "This is Wolfpack leader to all fighters," Shin announced over the radio. "Remember, they think we're primitive. Let's show them how wrong they are." The fighters accelerated to speeds that no chemical rocket could achieve. Flight leader Moon Taiho and squadron leader Kwan Mi-young led their pilots in a coordinated attack on the Veltar crystal formations near the moon. The crystalline aliens had positioned themselves to shatter Earth's moon and rain debris on the planet below. Their ships were beautiful, looking like living jewels floating in space. But beauty meant nothing when faced with antimatter warheads. The first explosions lit up space around the moon. Crystal ships that had seemed invulnerable to energy weapons shattered like glass when hit by the pure destruction of matter-meeting antimatter. The fragments sparkled as they tumbled away into deep space, but the biggest surprise came from engineer Ko Min-seo's masterpiece. The orbital MAC platforms had been disguised as communication satellites and space stations. When they revealed their true nature, the aliens finally understood how badly they had underestimated humanity. The magnetic acceleration cannon platforms spoke with voices like thunder. Each shot crossed millions of kilometers in seconds, turning enemy ships into expanding clouds of debris. The weapons were so powerful that they could be heard even in space, their electromagnetic pulse creating radio waves that sounded like the roar of an angry god. The Luxari energy beings had expected to possess human technology and turn it against its creators. They flowed toward Earth's orbital installations like living lightning, confident that primitive human systems could not resist their influence. Dr. Wu Jina was ready for them. The biodefense specialist had studied the energy beings for months, looking for weaknesses. She found it in their fundamental nature. They could not interface with quantum-encrypted systems that required human consciousness to operate. Activating quantum firewalls, Dr. Wu announced from her command center. Let's see how they handle technology they can't understand. The Luxari beings struck Earth's defense networks and recoiled in confusion. Every system they tried to possess was locked behind quantum encryption that their energy-based consciousness could not penetrate. Even worse, the human-designed systems seemed to actively reject their presence, creating feedback loops that caused them pain. General Park Hyun-woo coordinated the ground defenses as some Luxari managed to reach Earth's surface. His soldiers were equipped with weapons designed specifically to fight energy-based life forms. Plasma rifles created containment fields that trapped the beings, while quantum grenades disrupted their coherence. The battle raged across the entire solar system. Human ships that the aliens had dismissed as primitive toys proved to be deadly predators. Weapons that should not have been able to penetrate advanced alien armor cut through their defenses like knives through cloth. But the turning point came when Engineer Ko activated her secret project. Deep inside the sun, construction robots had been working for years to build something unprecedented, a weapon that could turn the star itself into a cannon. The Sol cannon focused stellar energy into a coherent beam that could reach across light years. The first shot targeted the Luxari's home dimension anchor, a massive structure that allowed their energy forms to exist in normal space. The beam struck with the power of a solar flare concentrated into a space smaller than a building. The anchor vaporized instantly. Without it, the Luxari invasion force was stranded in normal space where they were vulnerable to conventional weapons. They tried to retreat to higher dimensions but found themselves trapped like fish in a net. Captain Ryu Haiwan led the counterattack on Mars, supported by Marine Colonel Yang Kyung-ho and his assault teams. The soldiers used the underground tunnels that connected the colonies, emerging behind enemy lines where the aliens least expected them. The boarding actions revealed a crucial weakness in the alien forces. The hive-minded Corvani were predictable, following patterns that human tacticians could anticipate. But each human soldier was an individual, making decisions that no computer or collective mind could predict. Colonel Yang's Marines turned the aliens' advanced technology against them. They captured Corvani weapons and used them to destroy the ships that had bombarded the colonies. Within hours, the surviving alien forces on Mars were in full retreat. Lieutenant Commander Shin coordinated the final assault from her fighter squadron. Her pilots were equipped with quantum entanglement communicators that allowed real-time coordination across impossible distances. They could react instantly to changing battle conditions, something the aliens had never encountered before. The alien command and control networks, designed for predictable warfare between civilizations that followed established patterns, collapsed under the weight of humanity's organized chaos. Every time they tried to counter one human tactic, 3 more appeared from different directions. As the battle reached its climax, the remaining alien ships began to retreat toward the edge of the solar system. They had come expecting to destroy a primitive species with minimal resistance. Instead, they had encountered weapons and tactics that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare. Admiral Yun watched the enemy withdrawal from Guardian Station. His tactical displays showed the debris of dozens of alien ships scattered throughout the solar system. Humanity had won the first battle, but he knew this was just the beginning of a larger war. All units, maintain pursuit, he ordered. Don't let any of them escape to report what they've seen. The galaxy thinks we're a quiet species. Let's keep that illusion a little while longer. The thunder of human weapons had broken the silence of space. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was far from quiet. They were the storm that had been waiting to break. The battle of the solar system continued for 6 long days. Admiral Yun Taemin commanded the human forces from his orbital fortress New Seoul, a massive battle station that had been disguised as an asteroid mining operation for 3 years. Now its true purpose was revealed. A command center that could coordinate military operations across the entire solar system. The fortress bristled with weapons that the aliens had never imagined. Railgun batteries that could fire continuously for hours, missile launchers loaded with antimatter warheads, energy shields powered by fusion reactors hidden deep in the station's core. It was humanity's greatest military achievement, and the aliens were only now realizing it existed. "Status report," Admiral Yun demanded from his command chair, surrounded by holographic displays showing the battle from every angle. "Enemy forces are regrouping near Saturn," reported Chief Navigator Bei Yu-jin. "They're using the planet's rings for cover, trying to figure out how we destroyed so many of their ships." The Admiral smiled grimly. The aliens had expected humanity to fight like other primitive species, desperate charges against superior technology, followed by inevitable defeat. Instead, they had encountered careful planning, superior tactics, and weapons that turned their own advantages against them. Captain Ryu Haiwan received new orders to lead the most dangerous mission of the war. Intelligence reports showed that the Corvani had built a massive hive ship hidden in Saturn's atmosphere, using the gas giant's crushing pressure and radiation as natural protection. "This is a one-way trip," Admiral Yun told him over the secure communication link. "That hive ship is coordinating their remaining forces. If we don't destroy it, they'll eventually figure out how to counter our weapons." Ryu assembled a strike force of humanity's fastest ships and most experienced Marines. Marine Colonel Yang Kyung-ho would lead the boarding party, supported by specialists trained in alien ship systems and zero-gravity combat. "We go in fast and hit them before they know we're coming," Ryu explained to his officers. "Once we're inside their ship, their size advantage disappears. In close quarters, human adaptability beats alien technology." The strike force descended into Saturn's atmosphere like falling stars. The gas giant's violent storms provided cover from enemy sensors, but also threatened to tear the human ships apart with winds that moved faster than bullets. Ryu's ship, the Inchin's Fury, led the formation through the swirling clouds of hydrogen and helium. His pilot, Lieutenant Kim Bora, had trained for years in atmospheric flight. She guided them through the storms with skill that no alien computer could match. The Corvani hive ship was a living nightmare, a biological construct the size of a city that pulsed with organic light. It floated in the dense atmosphere like a giant jellyfish, protected by smaller ships that moved around it in precise formations. "Target acquired," Ryu announced. "All ships begin the attack." Human missiles streaked through the thick atmosphere, their guidance systems locked onto the organic weak points that Dr. Nam Ji-woo had identified in her research. The explosions lit up the gas giant's clouds like fireworks, each one tearing chunks of living tissue from the massive alien vessel. But the real battle began when Colonel Yang's Marines breached the hive ship's hull. The boarding action was unlike anything in human military history, fighting through corridors that pulsed like arteries, against enemies that shared a collective consciousness. The Marines had trained for this moment. They moved through the alien ship in small teams, using human unpredictability to confuse the hive mind's tactical programs. Every time the Corvani tried to coordinate a defense, the humans changed their approach. "This is Colonel Yang to all units," he radioed as his team fought through what looked like a living brain the size of a cathedral. "Remember, they think as one mind. We think as individuals. Use that advantage." The breakthrough came when Dr. Nam's bioweapon was deployed. She had spent months developing a virus that could disrupt the Corvani's collective consciousness without killing them. The weapon spread through the hive ship's organic systems like wildfire. Within minutes, the massive vessel began convulsing. The collective mind that had controlled thousands of ships across the galaxy fell apart as individual Corvani found themselves thinking independently for the first time in their lives. Many of them went insane from the shock. Back on Mars, Commander Oh Sung-min led the rebuilt Mars Defense Corps in cleaning up the remaining alien presence on the planet. The colonies that had been destroyed were being rebuilt, but this time with hidden weapons and underground bunkers that could withstand orbital bombardment. "We're not just rebuilding," Oh told his engineers. "We're building better. If they come back, we'll be ready." The war's turning point came when engineer Ko Min-seo completed the Sol Cannon's targeting system. The massive weapon built into Earth's sun could now track and destroy targets anywhere in the solar system with the focused power of stellar fire. The first demonstration eliminated a Veltar crystal formation that had been hiding in the asteroid belt. The beam of concentrated solar energy struck with such force that it turned the crystalline ships into their component atoms. The aliens watching from distant observation posts could barely comprehend what they had witnessed. "Target destroyed," Ko reported from her control center deep beneath the Earth's surface. "Sol Cannon is ready for continuous operations." The Luxari energy beings made one final desperate attack on Earth itself. They had learned to avoid the quantum encrypted systems, but they still thought they could possess human minds directly and turn the planet's population into weapons against their own military. Dr. Wu Jina had prepared for this possibility. She had developed neural implants for key personnel that created interference patterns the energy beings could not penetrate. When the Luxari tried to possess human consciousness, they found themselves trapped in maze-like thought patterns that led nowhere. The human mind is more complex than they realized, Dr. Wu explained to Admiral Yun. Our consciousness doesn't work like theirs. We can think about thinking, which creates recursive loops they can't escape from. Lieutenant Commander Xin Yejin led the final space battle from her command fighter, coordinating dozens of squadrons equipped with humanity's most advanced technology. Her pilots had learned to fight like humans, individually creative but perfectly coordinated when necessary. The quantum entanglement communicators allowed instant coordination across the entire battle space. When Xin saw an opportunity to trap a group of enemy ships, her pilots responded instantly, moving in perfect formation to cut off escape routes. This is Wolfpack leader to all squadrons, she announced. The aliens wanted us to be quiet. Let's give them some noise they'll never forget. The human fighters struck like a swarm of angry wasps, their antimatter weapons turning space into a light show of destruction. The remaining alien ships found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by opponents they had dismissed as primitive. As the sixth day of battle ended, the surviving alien forces began a general retreat toward the edge of the solar system. They had lost more than half their ships and all of their major commanders. The species they had come to exterminate had instead exterminated them. Admiral Yun stood on the observation deck of New Seoul, watching the enemy ships flee into deep space. The immediate threat was over, but he knew this was just the beginning of a larger conflict. Send a message to all human forces, he ordered. Phase 1 is complete. Prepare for Phase 2. Captain Lee Dong-hyun received orders to lead humanity's first deep space pursuit mission. His upgraded task force would follow the retreating aliens and make sure none of them survived to warn the Galactic Council about humanity's true capabilities. The Soul's Pride and her sister ships disappeared into the darkness between stars, hunting alien vessels like sharks following wounded prey. For the first time in human history, the hunters had become the hunted. On Earth, President Kim Soo-young addressed the survivors of the battle. Her words were broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system, from the rebuilt Mars colonies to the mining stations in the asteroid belt. Today we prove that humanity will not go quietly into extinction, she said. The aliens came to silence us forever. Instead, they heard the thunder of our defiance. Now it's time for the galaxy to hear that same thunder and learn what happens when they threaten the human race. The war for humanity's survival had become something more, a war for the right to exist among the stars. The quiet species had found their voice, and it spoke with the thunder of weapons that could shake worlds. The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than Earth's moon, made of strange metals that glowed with their own light. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its many ports, bringing representatives from hundreds of different worlds. Ambassador Kwon Dai-ho walked through the long corridors, his black suit looking plain next to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the other delegates. His aide, Park So-jin, carried a small briefcase with Earth's official documents. She had studied alien languages for years, but the sounds coming from the other beings still made her nervous. The council chamber was a huge dome filled with floating platforms. Each species had their own section, designed for their particular needs. The crystalline Veltar sat on platforms that hummed with energy. The Corvani moved together like a single organism, their insect-like bodies clicking as they communicated. The Luxari appeared as shifting patterns of light, barely visible to human eyes. Daeho took his place on the small human platform. It was positioned near the back, far from the center where the important species held court. The message was clear. Humans were not considered equals here. Back on Earth, Admiral Yoon Tae-min watched the proceedings from his command center on the orbital defense platform called Guardian Station. The platform orbited high above Earth, hidden among the space debris and old satellites. Through the quantum link, he could see everything happening at Nexus Prime. The Veltar leader, a being that looked like living crystal, spoke first. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. We have studied the species called humans for 3 of their years. They are young, primitive, and weak. Their technology relies on chemical explosions and metal projectiles. They have not even left their birth system. Murmurs of agreement came from around the chamber. The Corvani representative, speaking for its entire hive mind, added its thoughts. These humans fight among themselves constantly. They poison their own world and waste their resources. They are not ready for galactic society. Deho felt his face grow hot with anger, but he stayed quiet. Earth's leaders had told him to listen first, speak only when asked. The human race needed these trade agreements to survive. The Luxari delegate flickered brighter as it spoke. Its words came as pure thought, translated by machines. We have seen many species like this. They make noise and threats, but they never amount to anything important. We suggest limited contact only. Finally, the council's ancient leader called for the human representative to speak. Deho stood up, his voice steady despite his anger. Honored council members, humanity seeks only peaceful relations with your great civilizations. We offer our friendship and our willingness to learn from your wisdom. The crystalline leader made a sound like laughing wind chimes. Friendship? What can you offer that we need? Your weapons are toys. Your ships barely fly. Your science is thousands of years behind ours. Sojin handed Deho a data tablet showing Earth's achievements. He spoke about human art, music, and literature. He talked about their rapid technological growth and their desire for peace. But the alien delegates seemed bored. Some of them were already leaving their platforms. The final judgment came swift and harsh. Humanity was classified as a quiet species, technologically backward and militarily insignificant. They would be allowed to trade for basic supplies, but they could not expand beyond their solar system. No human ships would be permitted in galactic space without permission. The insult that hurt most came at the end. The Veltar leader looked directly at Deho and spoke slowly, making sure every word was understood. Your species will remain quiet in your little corner of space. When you have grown up enough to matter, perhaps we will speak again. Until then, do not disturb the real powers of this galaxy. Admiral Yun watched his ambassador's face on the screen. He had served in 3 wars and seen many defeats, but this felt worse than losing a battle. This was being told that humanity did not even deserve to fight. After the session ended, Deho and Sojin returned to their small quarters on the station. She paced back and forth, too angry to sit still. They treated us like children, like we're some primitive tribe that just discovered fire. Deho sat heavily in his chair. It's worse than that. They don't see us as equals. To them, we're insects. Meanwhile, Dr. Nam Jiwoo worked late in her laboratory back on Earth. She was the planet's leading expert on alien biology, and she had been studying the biological samples exchanged during first contact. Something about them bothered her, but she could not figure out what. Under her microscope, the alien cells looked normal enough. But when she ran genetic analysis, strange patterns appeared in the data. The DNA contained markers that suggested long-term observation and study. These samples were not from recent contact. They showed signs of being collected over many years. She ran the tests again, thinking she had made a mistake. But the results were the same. The aliens had been watching humanity for decades, maybe longer. They knew far more about human biology than they had admitted. Dr. Nam reached for her phone to call the Admiral, then stopped. She needed more proof before she could make such a serious accusation. If she was right, it meant the aliens had been lying from the very beginning. Back on Guardian Station, Admiral Yoon studied reports from deep space monitoring stations. The official story was that alien ships had discovered humanity 3 years ago during a routine exploration mission. But the more he looked at the data, the more questions he had. Why had the aliens been so quick to classify humanity as insignificant? Why did they seem to know so much about human military capabilities? And why were they so eager to keep humans trapped in their home system? The Admiral had spent his whole career studying warfare and strategy. Every instinct he had developed told him that something was very wrong with this situation. The aliens were not just dismissive of humanity. They were afraid of something. He opened a secure communication channel to his most trusted officers scattered across the solar system. Captain Lee Dong-hyun commanded the newest human warship. Commander Shin Ye-jin ran the Deep Space Sensor Network. General Park Hyun-woo led Earth's military forces. The message he sent was short and coded, but they would all understand its meaning. It was time to start asking the hard questions about humanity's new alien neighbors, and it was time to start preparing for the possibility that those neighbors might not be friends after all. The galaxy expected humanity to remain quiet and insignificant, but Admiral Yun had other plans. 6 months had passed since the humiliation at Nexus Prime. Captain Lee Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of his ship, the Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the main view screen. His vessel was humanity's most advanced warship, though the aliens would probably laugh at it. The ship moved quietly through the outer edges of the solar system, officially on a peaceful exploration mission. The real purpose was much different. Hidden in the cargo bays were new weapons designed by engineer Ko Min-seo. She called them railguns, and they could fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds. "Captain, we're approaching the test coordinates," reported Lieutenant Commander Shin Ye-jin from her position at the sensor station. She had been promoted after discovering some troubling readings from deep space. "Good. Begin the test sequence," Lee ordered. He wanted to see what these new weapons could really do, far away from any alien observers. The railgun fired with barely a whisper of sound. The projectile, a simple rod of dense metal, shot out at 20% the speed of light. It hit the target asteroid and turned it into a cloud of glowing dust. Ko's design worked better than anyone had hoped, but their celebration was cut short when Shin's sensors detected something alarming. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple contacts at the edge of the system. Configuration matches Corvani research vessels." Lee frowned. The insect-like Corvani had no business being in human space. "How many ships?" 12 confirmed, possibly more hiding behind the outer planets, Shin reported. Her fingers flew over her control panel, trying to get a clearer reading. "They're deploying some kind of equipment on the moons of Neptune and Uranus." On Earth, General Park Hyun-woo received the report with growing anger. He sat in the war room deep beneath the United Earth Defense Headquarters, surrounded by screens showing military positions across the solar system. The aliens were violating human space, and there was nothing he could do about it under the treaty terms. "What are they really doing out there?" he asked Intelligence Officer Choi Yun-ha, who had been analyzing the alien activities for weeks. Choi pulled up a holographic display showing the outer planets. Red dots marked where alien equipment had been placed. "They claim to be studying the unique properties of our solar system, but the pattern doesn't match scientific research. These look like monitoring stations and weapon platforms." The general studied the display. His military experience told him this was the beginning of something much worse. How long would it take them to complete whatever they're building? "At their current pace, maybe 6 months, Choi replied. "But sir, there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications, and some of the words they use don't translate properly. The computer keeps suggesting they're talking about elimination and cleansing rather than research." Park felt cold fear settle in his stomach. He had seen this pattern before in human conflicts, one side positioning forces while talking about peace. "Get me President Kim on a secure line. We need an emergency meeting of the Defense Council." 2 hours later, the most powerful leaders on Earth gathered in the underground bunker. President Kim Soo-young looked tired. The stress of dealing with the aliens had aged her visibly in just 6 months. Choi presented her findings to the group. The evidence was disturbing. The aliens had been lying about their intentions from the beginning. The research ships were actually preparing for something much more sinister. "We've also found historical records in their own databases," she continued. "References to other quiet species that were contacted and then disappeared from galactic records. 23 civilizations in the past 1,000 years, all classified the same way we were." Dr. Nam Ji-woo, who had been invited to the meeting, stood up to speak. Her genetic research had uncovered even more disturbing facts. "The biological samples they gave us contained DNA markers from multiple extinct species. They've been collecting genetic material from civilizations they've destroyed." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not been discovered by accident. They had been marked for extinction. President Kim made the hardest decision of her career. "General Park, you are authorized to begin Operation Silent Thunder. We need to be ready for war, even if we have to fight it in secret." Operation Silent Thunder had been planned as a worst-case scenario. Hidden across the solar system were construction sites disguised as mining operations and research stations. In reality, they were building the most advanced weapons humanity had ever conceived. Foreman Zhang Qite supervised the largest construction site, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. His crews worked around the clock, building massive railgun platforms that could fire projectiles across the entire solar system. The workers thought they were building mining equipment. Only Zhang and a few others knew the truth. Captain Li received new orders to patrol the outer system and monitor alien activities. His ship had been secretly upgraded with the new railgun technology. If the aliens made any aggressive moves, he was authorized to respond with deadly force. Engineer Ko worked frantically to complete more weapon systems. Her railguns were just the beginning. She had designs for antimatter missiles, plasma cannons, and something she called the Sol Cannon, a weapon that could use the sun itself as a power source. The most challenging part of the operation was keeping it secret. Humanity had to appear weak and helpless while secretly preparing for war. Any sign that they were building weapons would give the aliens an excuse to attack immediately. Commander, Shin expanded her sensor network throughout the solar system. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, potentially hid monitoring equipment that could give away their preparations. Her teams worked to create a network of hidden sensors that could track alien movements without being detected. Dr. Nam continued her research into alien biology, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. The crystalline Veltar seemed to have a complex quantum structure that might be disrupted. The energy-based Luxari appeared to have difficulty interacting with certain types of matter. Even the hive-minded Corvani might have vulnerabilities if their communication network could be jammed. As the weeks passed, more alien ships appeared in the outer system. They no longer bothered to hide their activities. Weapon platforms appeared on several moons. Energy collectors were built near the sun. The aliens were preparing for something big. The final confirmation came when Choi intercepted a coded message between alien commanders. The translation was unclear, but the meaning was obvious. Humanity had approximately 60 days before the cleansing operation would begin. President Kim gathered her military leaders one last time. The secret construction projects were ahead of schedule, but they were still not ready for a full-scale war. They needed more time. "How long until our defenses are operational?" she asked General Park. "The railgun platforms will be ready in 3 weeks. The Sol Cannon needs at least 2 months. Our new ships won't be finished for 6 months," he replied grimly. Admiral Yoon spoke up from his position at Guardian Station. "Then we'll have to make do with what we have. The element of surprise is our only advantage. When they attack, they'll expect us to fight with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Instead, they'll face something they never imagined." The meeting ended with a simple understanding. Humanity was about to face extinction, but they would not go quietly into the darkness. The aliens expected silence from the primitive species they had dismissed. Instead, they would hear the thunder of human defiance. The first attacks came without warning. Commander Oh Sung-min was having breakfast in the Mars colony cafeteria when the alarm started screaming. Through the transparent dome above, he could see bright flashes in the sky as Corvani ships began their bombardment. "All personnel to emergency shelters immediately," he shouted over the noise. The colonists, mostly scientists and miners, ran in panic toward the underground bunkers. Many of them had never seen combat before. O grabbed his communication device and called the Mars Defense Corps headquarters. "This is Commander O at Colony 7. We are under attack by alien vessels. Request immediate assistance." The reply came from Captain Ryu Hai-wan, commander of the patrol ship Incheon's Fury. "We see the attack on our sensors. Multiple Corvani vessels are firing on civilian targets across the planet. This is not a military operation. They're trying to kill everyone." O felt sick as he realized the truth. The aliens were not trying to conquer Mars. They were trying to wipe out every human living there. Men, women, and children were being murdered simply for being human. The bombardment continued for hours. Energy beams turned entire sections of the colony into melted metal and glass. O led rescue teams through the ruins, pulling survivors from collapsed buildings. The lucky ones had made it to the deep shelters in time. By the end of the day, 3 of the 7 Mars colonies had been completely destroyed. Thousands of humans were dead and more were dying from radiation poisoning and injuries. The survivors huddled in underground chambers waiting for the next attack. Captain Ryu watched the massacre from his ship, hidden behind one of Mars's moons. His vessel was fast but lightly armed. Against the massive Corvani battleships, he could do little except record the evidence of genocide. "Sir, I'm detecting similar attacks throughout the system," reported his communications officer. "Energy weapons are targeting Earth's power stations. Crystal ships are positioning themselves near the moon." Ryu understood immediately. The aliens were not just attacking Mars. They were preparing to destroy all human civilization at once. The moon would be shattered, sending debris raining down on Earth like a deadly meteor shower. Admiral Yoon received the reports at Guardian Station with growing rage. The aliens had dropped all pretense of peaceful research. Their true purpose was revealed: the complete extermination of the human race. "Status report on Operation Silent Thunder," he demanded. Chief Navigator Bei Yujin consulted her displays. 60% of the railgun platforms are operational. The Sol cannon is still under construction. Our new ships are not ready for combat. "How long do we have before they're ready for a coordinated assault?" Yun asked. "Based on their positioning and energy readings, approximately 72 hours, Bei replied. "They're taking time to make sure every human settlement is targeted simultaneously." In her laboratory on Earth, Dr. Nam Ji-woo made a horrifying discovery. She had been analyzing the genetic database that the aliens had shared during first contact. Hidden in the files were complete genetic profiles of dozens of extinct species. She pulled up the records on her computer screen and felt her blood turn cold. Species after species, all classified as quiet at some point in their history. All had shown rapid technological advancement. All had been eliminated within a few years of contact with the Galactic Council. The pattern was always the same. First contact followed by classification as primitive, followed by systematic extermination. The aliens had turned genocide into a routine procedure. Dr. Nam called Admiral Yun with her findings. "They've done this before, sir. Many times. We're not their first victims. We're just the latest in a long line of murdered civilizations." The Admiral felt a cold fury settle in his heart. The aliens had not just deceived humanity about their intentions. They had built their entire galactic civilization on the bones of extinct species. Intelligence Officer Choi Yoon-ha intercepted more alien communications as their attack preparations continued. The translations were becoming clearer as her computers learned more about their languages. "They call us upstart. Mammals in their reports," she told General Ark. "They've been planning this extermination for decades, ever since they first detected our radio signals. The whole first contact process was just them gathering information about our defenses." General Park studied the tactical displays showing alien positions throughout the solar system. The enemy had overwhelming numbers and superior technology. Humanity's only chance was to strike first before the aliens were ready for their coordinated assault. "Can we disrupt their coordination?" he asked. "Maybe," Choi replied. "The Corvani use a hive mind communication system. If we can jam or overload it, their ships might become confused. The Luxari beings need special anchor points to exist in normal space. Destroy those and they'll be forced to retreat." President Kim held an emergency session with her remaining military commanders. The situation was desperate. Most of Earth's orbital defenses had been destroyed in the initial attacks. The Mars colonies were in ruins. Millions of humans were already dead. "What are our options?" she asked. Admiral Yoon spoke from his command center. "We activate Silent Thunder immediately. Every weapon we have, even if they're not fully tested. It's our only chance." "What about civilian casualties?" the president asked. "If we fight back, they might target population centers directly." "Ma'am, they're already targeting population centers," General Park replied grimly. "This isn't a war, it's an extermination. They plan to kill every human in the galaxy." The decision was made. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. If they were going to die, they would take some aliens with them. Across the solar system, hidden bases received their activation codes. Foreman John Kite watched as his disguised mining platforms revealed their true nature. Massive railgun batteries emerged from fake asteroid surfaces. Power systems that had been hidden for months came online. Engineer Ko Min-seo activated her prototype weapons from her command bunker on Earth. The Sol cannon was not ready, but her smaller plasma weapons could still cause damage to alien ships. Captain Lee Dong-hyun received orders to begin hunting enemy vessels in the outer system. His ship, the Soul's Pride, had been secretly equipped with humanity's most advanced weapons. It was time to see how they performed against real targets. The aliens had expected humanity to beg for mercy when the attacks began. They had planned for desperate attempts at negotiation and surrender. What they had not planned for was humans who refused to accept extinction. The galaxy was about to learn that when cornered, humans did not become quiet. They became dangerous. Commander Oh Sung-min spoke to the survivors in the Mars bunkers over the emergency communication system. "This is not the end," he promised them. "Our fleet is coming. Our weapons are activating." The aliens wanted to silence humanity forever. Instead, they're about to hear something they never expected: the sound of humans fighting back. Above Mars, the Corvani ships continued their bombardment, confident that they were destroying a helpless enemy. They had no idea that deep in space, human railguns were already taking aim at their formations. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin.